The fintech space is brimming with innovation from simplifying personal banking to creating sophisticated financial tools for enterprises. But what does it really take to thrive in this dynamic and competitive space? What are the challenges that fintech leaders face, and what qualities do they need to drive their business forward? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Analytics Insight podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of industry leaders, innovators, and pioneers who are shaping the future of various industries. Today's episode is particularly exciting as we'll be talking about fintech, the intersection of finance and technology, which has been revolutionizing the financial services industries in ways we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us Zoran Marinkovic, who has been making remarkable strides in the fintech space. We'll talk about his business, the challenges faced, the innovation fueling it, and a look at what the future holds for both the fintech industry and Zoran's journey. So let's dive right in. Hi, Zoran, how are you doing?
Hi, Priya. Pretty good. Thank you. How about you?
Great, it's a pleasure. I'm doing good too. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast. And of course, we'll be talking more about the fintech space, your journey, particularly about your business, your company. So, I think to kick things off, let's start with the basics. For example, fintech has become a buzzword, but for those who may not be fully aware, it covers a broad range of technologies designed to improve financial services, from mobile payments to robo advisors, the blockchain and AI. Fintech is kind of changing the entire financial landscape. So, Zoran, how would you describe your fintech business to someone who's unfamiliar with it? What's a core mission and what are the gaps that you're filling in the industry? If you can also help us understand more about your company.
Our fintech business is about providing new generation financial platforms for lending, investing, and factoring. That would be a short description. Now, if we add the word crowd to it, it will become more descriptive and explain exactly what we usually delivering. Then it would be systems for crowd lending, crowd investing, and crowd factoring. Like every other fintech business, we create more dynamic and efficient financial environment where our platforms are enabling improved supply chain financing and financial inclusion, which is important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a very fascinating way of looking at the fintech business, I guess. And in the fast-paced world of fintech, I think having a very clear focus on the value that you're bringing to the table is so very essential. But moving ahead, I think when we're talking about business, I think every successful business is often shaped by the journey of its founder or the leadership team goes through. Experience is one of the most valuable teachers in any industry, undoubtedly. But it holds a particular weight in fintech, I think, where technological innovation and financial acumen must go hand in hand. So, what were your past experiences or achievements or lessons that have shaped your journey to where you currently are, and what triggered your interest in the fintech space?
Being introduced to fintech industry is an achievement on its own. Then it comes the possibility to cooperate with highly skilled fintech professionals and financial institutions in Sweden and abroad. Then it comes widening up that network to other countries and regions of the world. Of course, also our membership in Swedish Fintech Association, where we are members since 2018, created collaboration and exchange of ideas, which we later on could implement elsewhere and implement that knowledge to other fintech markets.
Right. I think the blend of learnings and achievements often lay a very great foundation for some of the impeccable things that lie ahead of us. So it's really important to reflect on those moments because they help us define the trajectory of our business, I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
great.
yeah, and I think in an industry as transformative as fintech, innovation doesn't happen in isolation because um, for example, you or leaders are often inspired by a combination of external influences from industry trends or even individual mentors for that matter. So I would love to know more about who or what exactly influence you the most on this particular journey? I mean, are there any key individuals or a particular trend that may have shaped your approach in building and scaling your business?
Good questions. Well, it was not any company that influenced us. It was the organization. You probably know them. It's called Positive Money. It's a global organization for redesigning our current economic and monetary system and enabling as well this financial inclusion that I was talking about earlier. But they're also trying to speed up the process of not just simple innovations, but enabling digital currency above all. On the market, on the global market, above all in developed countries of the West, but also in other countries. As we know, China has already introduced digital currency, which is in use. Other countries are about to follow, but there is a certain delay in that process. And there's a lot of talk inside and outside around that organization, Positive Money, which I think the ideas coming from that organization would simply by introducing digital currency to different markets would prevent, above all, money laundering. But it would also prevent banks from creating virtual money every time they give us a loan. And of course, that's the source of other problems. This virtual money creates its initial reason and cause of financial crisis, which we experience on a regular basis now. Of course, there are other fintechs that have influenced us, but I would say that the ideas from this organization have influenced us the most.
Yes, I agree with you, Zoran. And I think inspiration is a very personal but a very crucial part of a leadership because whether it's a mentor or, for example, you mentioned a particular organization that kind of inspired you, it often, pushes us forward in many ways that we sometimes don't even realize until we reflect on it one day. So I think it's personal, but forms an important part of every leader, I feel. I think we've been talking about in the fintech space. Uh, I want to understand from you, when with the advent of technologies, we have seen the impact of artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies across various industries. And I think we all are using some part of AI in our daily lives as well now. But I think the financial industry was kind of delayed or late in embracing these technologies, and what we are seeing fintech right now could have been possible much earlier. I want to understand from you what are your views, on the current landscape of fintech. How do you see it? How has the growth been till date, or you feel that more evolution is yet to come?
Yeah, also a good question, but I would partly agree on that fintechs were late to introduce and implement the new technologies, AI above all. It's more about being late introducing the new financial logic and new fintech logic. It's simply ignored. It's simply ignored by the major players. They don't strive to become more open in some areas because it's not in their interest. So I think that's the main reason. If you want to make a difference, you have to adapt to a new fintech logic, to be more transparent, allow more transparency, allow more money on the market, etc. What we do, how do we make a difference in financial industry? Well, we're trying to promote simplified and compliant fintech solutions in the first place. Then out of that, we naturally become players in different countries, in different financial markets, and we are connecting clients, regions, and in most cases even investor networks. As you probably know, here in Europe, we are over-regulating and under-investing. Right now, we see that other regions, like in GCC countries, which we think is the best fintech market right now, that market is regulated in a very similar way as the European one, but it's much easier to proceed with establishing your fintech business, finding investors. It feels like it's more easy to get capital market, and we are learning from them. They've been learning from European market, UK market as well, which is a very, very good fintech market. And all this mix creates a new innovation, new areas they are about to explore. So that's what we do with our clients, and that's what makes improvements in our business and in their business. If I would speak about Sweden, Sweden is still ahead of other countries, most of the other countries in fintech industry, but since there are very strict regulations from above all European Union and internal regulation from financial inspection here in Sweden, that gap disappears. So I guess in a couple of years there will be no difference of being fintech in Sweden and being fintech in Saudi Arabia. It will be more or less equal.
Yes, I think you highlighted a very important point, Zoran, where we're talking about the developments of the financial industry with regards to the integration of different technologies and how we are speeding up and how different countries would also be able to achieve the same pace in the near future. But I think if you look at the financial industry in the last decade, I think it has seen a significant transformation. From improving customer experiences to making financial services more accessible. I think fintech businesses have changed the way people and organizations interact with money. So, what would you say is a difference you are making in the financial industry with your business? I mean, how are your products or solutions addressing the main points or the crucial points in the industry? So, how are you making a difference in the fintech industry?
By listening to our clients, that would be the short answer. Collaborating and implementing SaaS solutions, that's the best approach, I think. We are, of course, forced, and we want to do that. We want to apply these changes, this new demands. So constantly adapting our existing solution to that new demands from the market, that's a must do for not just for us, but for every fintech.
Well, yes, I think that's a very important and an incredible impact, I must say, Zoran, because innovation in fintech isn't just about using latest technologies, but it's also about understanding the real world differences it makes for the users and institutions. So I think when you're directly listening to your customers and what your customers' pain points are, I think that's a real impact that you're making, and I think that's very much needed, especially in a very complex industry like the financial industry.
Exactly. Since it's closely related to banking, it's very important to understand what is it, why do we have fintech today? Why do we not continue with the traditional banking? And the explanation lies in explanation on why do we have money, what it is about. I think the positive money explained this much better than I, but just briefly, we are using money for payments, for circulation on the market, and for savings. And the point number 3 and point number 2 are in collision, because if you're saving, there will be less money circulating on the market. There will be less development, less investment as well. So this is what fintech is about, to enable so that savings and circulation of money on the market is more flexible option. You can save, but you can invest whenever there is a chance for it, and making investments easier to anyone, so that by using crowd financing, crowd lending, crowdfunding platforms, you can easily invest your money even if you're not an investor, not a professional investor at all. So that's also yet again another financial inclusion task to manage and to apply all over the globe.
Yes, I think financial inclusion is a very important aspect when you're talking about the impact of these technologies in the financial industry, because like you mentioned, it's important that we are making these services, the financial latest financial services, accessible to everyone. But I think one thing that stands out in the fintech space is the rapid pace of innovation. I mean, it's just not for the fintech space. I mean, I think it's applicable for across all industries. I mean, with so many players in the field, staying ahead or staying at the cutting edge requires a very deep understanding of your audience and continuous product development. Now, you mentioned that one of the ways that you're making a difference in the fintech industry is, by listening to your users directly. I think that kind of helps shape the approach as to how you're building your products and services or solutions. But again, we would understand, is there any other approach or a specific formula, I would say, that you innovate your solutions that appeal to your target audience and that helps you stand out from the rest?
Yeah, well, there are always challenges on the way, and it would be it would be boring if we didn't have them. They should exist, and our challenges were mostly related to our clients' challenges with regulations, but sometimes it's also certification. For example. And to us and to every other fintech, probably the most annoying thing is certification for ISO 27001 and SOC 2, because, it's there to provide some security on paper, but in a real world, it doesn't provide anything. No security, and above all, no guarantees that any unusual thing will happen with your workflow, with your business, with your technical environment. It's just a set of rules that you need to implement within your organization. So we're doing it, but it's in a short description, explanation would be, it feels like a waste of time. We are GDPR compliant. That's mandatory for us. We are GDPR certified as well. That's a mandatory here for us, since we operate on European market, European Union. And of course, this ISO is not a must-have, but if you are about to make a deal with some major bank or some major player on the financial market, they ask for that. And they ask simply because they have to ask, but not because it's really necessary something. So we had one situation last year that we lost the deal simply because we didn't have this ISO license. That's something that could happen. Other challenges, I would say that they're mostly existing here in Europe, but on the other markets as well. Regulations are to be followed, and of course, the authorities, financial inspections, central banks in different countries, they have their set of rules that everyone needs to comply with. That's understandable, but even though sometimes when you're done with that, you can see the inability to cooperate with the banks, because there is no one that can force any bank to apply to or provide you the service, because you have some sort of license from the financial authority in that country. We had at least one scenario where our client, had all possible licenses for running their financial business, including payment solution, including lending licenses. But banks saw it as a competition, and they were not able to open a client asset bank account. It was as simple as that, with no further explanation why. That's the main challenge, and I think it will be challenge for some fintechs that are still about to come to the market in the near future. So make sure you are very focused on that, that you already are in communication with the bank, and we still need them, because transactions can only be made through the bank. So yeah, stay friend with the bank. That would be my recommendation.
Right, definitely. Also, you mentioned about, regulations, like we have GDPR, and of course that becomes an important aspect when you're doing, when we are making use of any data, because you have to be GDPR compliant. But again, how do you see the role of a GDPR in shaping maybe the current as well as the future scenario of fintechs? I mean, see, there's no way that you can, get away with compliance. I mean, it's important that every company has to comply with them. But how do you see them? Do you think that while when you're complying with GDPR, it is also helping your business probably to grow, or does it add like a very competitive advantage or an edge to your business?
Well, I would say that there is a meaning behind the GDPR compliance, but I don't see the same type of meaning behind the ISO and SOC 2, because GDPR is about information security and concern of the authorities and of the wider audience that client data should not end up anywhere, should not end up out of control. So spreading that client data within the EU is fine, but it shouldn't be spread outside of that market. And that's understandable, because you don't know how people in anywhere else in the world would use that data, for what purpose. Maybe spamming you, or sending some funny SMS text messages. It's better to avoid that and preserve the security around that client data under the GDPR regulations. So I think, there are still some details in that very, very large documentation related to GDPR rules. There are probably some things that could be improved and will be improved in the future, and the implementation will be simplified. And that takes time. I'm not an expert in that area, so I can't judge. This is just my opinion. So that's how I see it.
Right, and I think it's often that through these challenges that businesses and leaders grow the most, because understanding and navigating these hurdles is what set successful companies apart. Um, but again, I think when you're leading a fintech company in today's rapidly evolving environment, you definitely require some unique blend of skills. It's not like that any layman person can enter into this field and integrate technological solutions and like, oh great, I've built a scaling startup, because the financial industry is very complex and highly regulated, and while the tech world moves quickly, it is also constantly evolving. So in your view, what are some of the vital attributes that every tech leader should possess in order to thrive in this industry?
Apart from, of course, product knowledge, tech skills, sales skills, and even this compliance skills, very important attribute is social competence, communication skills, but not social media communication, live communication skills. When you speak to someone, either in a phone call or in a conference or in a conference room, these communication skills are priority number one, I think, for any leader. But of course, technology leaders should be even more open and more successful in explaining things, explaining your business, explaining your technical solutions, and of course applying all this to your sales skills. Second very important aspect, if you are a fintech, you probably aim to play on a global market, to promote your products on a global market. And that's the point where your product quality, it's not enough to sell. You need to also approach that market, that new market, and have the ability to, apart from, of course, social competence that I mentioned, you need to have the ability to recognize cultural differences. And that could be reflected in many different aspects, say maybe especially in the GCC countries in the Middle East, where expectations are a bit different than from a client in Canada or UK or wherever. So you need to understand that this is a normal thing. Your client asks you to do some minor feature adjustment for free. If you say no, it's over. They will never call you again. But if you say yes, you will fix that for free, but you will get another much larger project to deal with because they trust you. They know that even in the future, if they ask you to adjust or tweak something for them free of charge, you are a flexible guy, so you will do that. So that's very important. And maybe I should mention that I was influenced by one book, and I'll be honest, I don't read books at all, maybe because I don't have time, but there was an audiobook called Into the Lion's Mouth, and it's about real life inspiration for James Bond. And that gave illustration of competence, illustration for competence and improvisation. Whenever you deal with a new client, new agents, new people, you have to be skilled to equally talk and equally be understood in a grocery store, in a conference room, in a royal palace, in the army, everywhere. If you succeed in that, then you're ready to be a CEO of any fintech worldwide.
That's some excellent advice, Zoran. I think thank you very much for that. And like you mentioned about the social communication skills, I think networking is something that's really undermined, but it definitely makes a very huge impact if you really know how to put across the right message at the right time to the right person. Because I think in leadership, I think in fintech, it just not requires only vision and innovation, but you also need to be resilient. You need to have adaptability and eye for both details and big picture trends. And like you said, having the proper skills, communication skills is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now, lastly, let's look ahead. I think the fintech industry has seen some explosive growth in recent years, and of course, there's no sign of it slowing down. You have increased automation, you have the rise of blockchain. I think it's more exciting than ever in the financial services space. So, Zoran, how do you see yourself as well as the fintech industry in the future? What trends do you think will shape the future of finance, and how do you see yourself and your business fitting into that landscape?
I only see more involvement in the whole thing. I'm happy to see that fintech innovations are being accepted worldwide. It perhaps that implementation does not have the speed that we would like to see, but it's still getting accepted. I'm very happy when I receive calls from South America, from Africa, from people asking about different solutions, especially nowadays related to crowd factoring, that becomes very popular. And it feels exciting, I must say. I love my job. Maybe I should mention that recently we have received an award called Excellence in Finance SAS, and in February next year I will be traveling to Dubai to that ceremony, which is a great milestone for us as a company. What else do we see in the near future? Yeah, well, what we see now, the best emerging fintech market is in the Middle East, in GCC countries, Saudi Arabia and Emirates, but also Bahrain, which is trying to make a real fintech hub in the Middle East. Kuwait as well, but above all, Saudi Arabia is investing a lot in fintech industry. There are new platforms for different kind of purposes being established and growing, but also their banks are much more open for innovations, and the banks that we cooperate with, we have very good communication. Maybe the support is not up to level here in Europe, but the solutions we use, the integrations we do with their core banking systems, etc., are really, really something that I would like to see elsewhere in the world. And of course, based on that, I expect that we, as Web Fintech, will have further expansion on GCC market, but of course here in Europe and elsewhere.
Well, yes, I think it's quite thrilling to think about where fintech is heading, especially with leaders like yourself pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So I think that brings us to the end of this very insightful conversation. We have covered a lot today, from the journey of building a fintech business to the future of the industry itself. Zoran, thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your challenges, and also the vision with us. It's quite clear that the fintech space will continue to evolve, and we look forward to seeing where you and your business go from here. Thank you so much for your time and effort, Zoran.
Thank you, Priya. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you so much. So this is for our listeners. Make sure to listen to all our podcasts for more engaging discussions with industry leaders, innovators, and change makers. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Meanwhile, you can view all our podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.